Geert Wilders' growing concern about Islam and immigration has made him a powerful force at home.
There is not such a thing as typical Dutch. It doesn't exist. It's a myth.
He says he's aiming to turn back the tide before it's all too late. And he's planning to take that message much further afield.
This is also happening in Australia. Australia should wake up more than it has done so far.
Amsterdam has long led the world in liberal social reform, from gay marriage to euthanasia and legal marijuana. But now the Dutch government is leading Europe in the opposite direction. It's declared multiculturalism to be dead, and it's cracking down hard on Muslims it accuses of failing to integrate. The man behind this radical turnaround says he's doing it in the name of freedom, and he wants to bring his firebrand vision to Australia. Excuse me, Mr. Wilders, from Australian television. We've been speaking to your office about doing an interview. So for many Netherlanders, their new hero is not a dyed blonde Lady Gaga, but a very different blonde bombshell. You've done this before, I guess?
Yeah.
A few thousand times. Meet Geert Wilders, arguably the biggest critic of Islam in Europe.
I would not want to live, or my children, or my grandchildren, to live in a country where the ideology of Islam becomes more dominant every day. Because the more Islam you have in a society, the less freedom you will have. You are not a racist or a fascist or whatever if you say, I'm proud that our country is based on values that are based on Christianity and Judaism and humanism. And we stand for Christians, we stand for homosexuals, we stand for the rights of women, for independent journalists, for whatever.
Geert Wilders' savaging of Islam has made him one of the nation's most popular politicians. He wants to end immigration from Islamic countries, outlaw headscarves, and stop the construction of any new mosques. He's likened Islam to communism and the Quran to Mein Kampf.
I see Islam as more ideology than a religion. It's not to be compared with Christianity or Judaism. It's more compared with other totalitarian ideologies, like communism or fascism.
Even so, do you understand why a law-abiding, patriotic Dutch Muslim feels insulted when you compare the Quran to Mein Kampf?
My aim is not to insult people. Make that clear. But Islam says that you should follow the example of Muhammad. And if I say that Muhammad was a warlord, he was a terrorist, maybe terrorist worse than bin Laden ever was at the time. Look at what he did in his time in the past, in his Medina time. This is not the example to follow.
A clear majority of Netherlanders see him as an extremist. But he's successfully tapped into fears that Muslim migrants aren't conforming to Dutch values. In last year's election, his Freedom Party won 15% of the vote, giving it 24 seats and the balance of power in Parliament. Yet just 10 years ago, this country was proud to call itself multicultural. Geert Wilders isn't the first person to champion Dutch culture overall. Pim Fortuyn was an outspoken gay professor who nearly became Prime Minister.
We have a lot of guests that are trying to take over the house. And the owner of the house doesn't like that.
In 2002, he was murdered by an animal rights activist who accused him of victimizing Muslims. 2 years later, another strident anti-Islamist was murdered, the filmmaker Theo van Gogh. This time, the killer was a Dutch-born Muslim. A week later, police foiled an assassination attempt on Wilders. He's lived with bodyguards ever since.
Unfortunately, almost for 7 years now, I live under 24-hour protection a day, every day a year, whether I'm in Holland or abroad. I lived with my wife in prison cells, not as a prisoner, but to be safe, in safe houses. It's not fun, but on the other hand, I won't be silenced because I only use democratical means, and if I would give in to people who use non-democratic means, who try to silence you by wanting to kill you or threatening to kill you, then it's the end of the democracy.
Geert Wilders developed his hostility to Islam as a young man when he lived in Israel. His views hardened back home when he became a conservative councillor in a tough migrant area and was mugged.
Have you heard of Geert Wilders?
In communities with a high Muslim population, you can feel the animosity towards him.
Oh, meneer, niet die naam noemen. Geert Wilders. Niet die naam noemen. Wat zei hij? Hij mag van mij dood. Ja, tuurlijk. 100% nu gelijk.
En waarom?
Ja, maar ik weet niet, man. Die meneer, hij verdient gewoon zijn geld door anderen te discrimineren en zo. Dat is toch geen eerlijk geld meer? Daarom.
Qasim and his friends Samet and Karim live in the Netherlands' second largest city, Rotterdam. As Europe's largest port, it's attracted the most migrants. More than half the citizens are of foreign descent. The poorest suburbs endure constant hooliganism. It's ethnic crime as much as religion that's building support for Wilders.
Ja, wij halen ook, maar nu niet meer. Ja. Ja, maar niet overdreven. Ja, maar niet... Bij elke jeugd dat... ja, maar niet dat we echt ruiten instaan of zo. Gewoon een beetje overlast, weet toch? Een beetje...
As we were filming, Samet found police were looking for him.
Het kan zijn dat je binnenkort misschien uitgenodigd wordt, zeg maar, voor een verhoor.
Meestal is het werk, maar meneer Jeur zei ook er is werk. Maar diegene die wil werken was ook niet zo prettig. Want mensen gingen werken en werden niet uitbetaald en zo. Dus wij dachten ook, wat gaan wij daar doen?
Potential problem of islamisation in Australia.
We all face immigration, also from people from Islamic countries. We all see that. For instance, this is something that also Senator Bernardi and I believe also others in Australia is fighting against. If they don't, parties like mine will emerge, will become strong. And let me tell you, this process is irreversible.